So I'm working on the tracks for the Rogaldorn battle tank this morning, and this is the part that nobody sees, well, except patrons. This is the part that nobody sees off camera, where I clean up stuff, the tedious work. Nobody wants to see that on camera, I don't think. So this is what goes on behind the scenes, so to speak. The videos are usually, under half an hour. I try to make sure they're all under half an hour. I'd like for them to be around 20 minutes. But anyway, they're usually about 20 minutes. And, sometimes I'll go through an entire model in that 20-minute video. And I don't think a lot of people realize that there may be 40, 50 hours in that model, all told. So this is the boring part that doesn't make it onto video. But this is not the subject of the video today, and I apologize if I keep going in and out of focus in this. But this is not the subject of this hopefully short video. I say that now as I start, but you know how I can be. Something that I've been thinking about, not been quite sure how to put it into words, because it's one of those things. I mean, I don't mind being controversial. I'm not necessarily a controversial guy. I like things to be quiet and peaceful, and mind my own business. So I try not to invite controversy. I don't, when I see that kind of stuff, I just tend to think, not my circus, not my monkeys. But one thing I've been noticing is that, and I understand it, there is a trend with a lot of creator channels, and I'm especially thinking of Warhammer channels, miniature painting channels, wargaming channels. I've seen it some in traditional modeling, but not as much. But I guess it could apply there too, because you could see it there. But this growing trend of not focusing on growth and learning and skills and things like that. Now, I get it to a certain extent, in that if you're playing the game and you've got, 50 figures, and you want to go and play a game with your friends with this new army you have, finding ways to paint models quickly is certainly there's a legit need for that. So I'm not knocking that process, and there are channels who focus squarely on that. And but that's great. That's fine. I understand that. I'm not criticizing that. But I sometimes wonder if some of the end result is kind of a backlash against skills. How does this go? Oh yeah. Kind of a backlash against skills, in that the socials can be very critical. The social media world can be very critical. And I'm saying this, keep in mind, I'm saying this from a soldier's perspective, an ex-soldier's perspective, because I think I had to think differently. So I'm going to say this harshly. I don't mean it harshly, but I mean it like from a soldier standpoint. People get their little feelings hurt. Now, I'm not saying that, we should be rude or mean to people or anything like that. I would never say that. But people let social media dictate how they think about their work in terms that may not be correct. They may worry too much about what social media says. And so it's almost like this response to it has been this anti-skills movement. I don't think it's been deliberate, but it's almost been a subtle message that, you know, don't don't get hung up on the details, but rather, focus purely on the fun. Now, I know it's weird for me to say that because you know how much I say focus on the fun. But I'm an advocate of learning, that part of the fun is the learning, is the growth, it's those aspects. Because I think when you're learning and when you're growing and when you're improving your skills and when you're refining your skills, it's going to make you better not only at more refined work, at higher level work, but it's also going to make you better at the quick work. That you're going to get a better result, a more satisfying result. And I don't mean a more satisfying result for the rest of the world. Who cares? Can you hear the train in the background? On cooler mornings like this, when the air is still, the train, I can hear it really loud. It's about half a mile away. Anyway, I don't get too hung up what people think of my skills. I mean, I think I'm an experienced modeler. I would not call myself a particularly good modeler. I think I'm an average modeler, just with a lot of experience in materials and methods. And so, but the point is, keep growing. I think it's important for the enjoyment of the hobby long term. There is a place when it comes to, say, miniatures for putting on a base coat, dry brushing, putting on a shade, hitting it with a matte varnish, and calling it done. There is a place for that. And I would not say don't do that. And if that's what you want to do, and if that's how you're having fun, do it. But I really think what I've seen is that focusing on learning and on skills when you can, I think in the long run is going to make for a more satisfying hobby, a more satisfying result. And there's nothing wrong with skills and growth of skills. People, I love watching guys like Richard Gray and Dave Perryman and Sarastro and Duncan Rhodes, those really great, miniature painters, Sergio Calvo, others like that, Angel Heraldez, Juan Hidalgo, just really good painters like that, because they inspire me to grow my skills. And you'll notice I didn't mention a few that I think are excellent painters, but they've kind of gotten lost in silliness and YouTubery. But those guys, I've read a few people say things on the socials, to say, that when painters like that show their work, it just makes people feel guilty that they can't do that. Well, I'm sorry. This hobby's not about equity in terms of skill. I have built hundreds of models. I have used techniques over and over and over and over again, and I still find almost every aspect of this hobby at times difficult, at times frustrating. I rarely get really the result that I see in my mind's eye, but I keep pushing it. But I never look at their work and go, well, that's not fair. And I think that's a dangerous attitude to have. I mean, it's happening more and more in society now. And in some areas, perhaps it's warranted, but when it comes to painting plastic toys, you stand on your own paintbrushes, so to speak. And so anyway, I've just been thinking about that as I've worked on this morning, and it was prompted by some videos that I've watched over the last couple of weeks and some discussions I've read online. Although I'm more and more, I'm getting to where I just ignore any discussions online. Because rarely do, I mean, it sounds very elitist, I guess, but it's just rarely do I find anything that I go, okay, that was helpful to me. That's what I'm all about. Is this helpful? Is what I'm watching helpful? Is what I'm doing helpful in growing and learning? Is what I'm recording going to be helpful to somebody? Is it going to be worthwhile for somebody? Is somebody going to watch that and go, okay, that was something I didn't know? Just the other day, apparently my video about thinning Tamiya paints must have been linked somewhere or whatever, because all of a sudden the traffic just kind of bumped up on it and I started getting a lot of comments. And most of the comments, all of them but one, were, hey, I had always wondered about this. This is really helpful. Thanks for this. I mean, and I don't say that to toot my horn, but it made me feel good because that's why I put it out there. Here's something that I learned. I want to share it with you. And it wasn't me saying you don't need to learn to thin Tamiya paints because that's just going to make you feel bad. Nobody comes out and directly says that, but sometimes I think that is the message that's being conveyed. But the one guy, the one exception, he said something like, "You take forever to get to the point." And I wanted to go, well, dude, if you've watched any of my videos, you would have already figured that out. That's just my normal method of doing things. I can't speak succinctly about anything. You remember that in Robin Hood Men in Tights when they were having that dinner and the one guy, he says, you put that so succinctly. And Don Rickles was playing the part of like a mobster boss in this Robin Hood movie, and he goes, "Suck what?" Every time I use the word succinctly, I just hear him going, "Suck what?" Anyway, sorry. Well, went off the rails on that one. But yeah, I'm not sure what my final point is, and it's just skills are worth pursuing. I think with improved skills, with improved confidence, with a larger toolkit, the more fun you're going to have as a modeler, because you're going to have more options. You're not going to feel like, well, I don't know what to do with this. You're going to know what to do with it because experience is going to have given you the tools to do more than maybe you're already doing. So consider that. I enjoy, and I won't name any of them because, quite frankly, it would sound as criticism, and I don't mean it that way. But there are plenty of channels when it comes to the miniature world where they show you very fast methods, and they'll admit it. Hey, this is not about winning a Slayer sword or a golden demon or the bronze Beelzebub or whatever you want to call it. They'll admit it's not about that. It's about getting stuff on the tabletop quickly. And quite often the point they make, which is a valid point, is if you're standing 3 or 4 feet away looking across the table at a figure, it's going to look fine, and I would take it one step further and just say, stop worrying what other people think about it. You decide what you think looks good, and that's the standard you need to go with. But always have a mind for learning, for growing, for improving, for pushing yourself. Because I really do believe that even if somebody's not trying to attain a certain visual level, they're going to be happier and more confident in what they do. So anyway, I guess you would call this a deep thoughts segment. It's just something that, like I said, I was working on this video and for YouTube release, and I had to do this, and I thought, well, let me talk about this while I do it. So, as always, thank you so much for being a patron. You are a blessing to my family and I, and we are very thankful for you. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.